Boards and booze, booze and boards, drinks and beers, fight some hordes. Drank too much, forgot our swords, ran back home, filled our gourds, got drunk again, sang some chords. Boards and booze and boards, with Mickey and Jeb. Hey everyone, booze and boards, Mickey and Jeb.
I got nothing stupid today, Jeb.
I don't either.
I got nothing stupid.
Listened to a lot of stupid today, and I'm just kind of had my fill, so...
So we're not going to do anything stupid today. We're just going to tell you what we're doing. So we are going to...
Dark Frontier.
Myth
Dark Frontier. And the myth part is like kind of a key thing because Mickey and I both really like myth, and we'd like to play that again sometime. Someday.
So this is by MegaCon Games.
Yep. They did myth. What was some of the other ones that they did?
I don't remember.
There's like a space one, and then there was Mercs was another.
Did they do the Emergence event?
Yeah, Emergence
event, which is behind us, and they did some mercenary one or something like that, and then But anyways, this is a standalone outside of Myth, but in the Myth universe.
Right.
And what were some of the other details on the game? We told it was by
2 to 4 players. 90 to 180 minutes and 12 and up.
That actually sounds about right.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
There, with the reading and the complexity and stuff, that's probably pretty close to spot on.
The time will vary with how many times you've played it. I would think.
Yeah. One of the other things is if you do own Myth, you can use your figures in the game instead of the tokens, but
yeah, that is one key thing. The game only comes with tokens for bad guys. There are miniatures for the heroes, but the tokens for the bad guys can be replaced by, like you said, if you own the Myth figures.
I don't think it deters from gameplay.
It doesn't deter from gameplay.
So anyways, I don't. This was a Kickstarter that both Jeb and I backed. Yep. And I think we backed. I don't know if there was a... I think all the extras were like right in the box. I think some of the people complained because it didn't matter what you pledged. They put everything in the box or something to that effect. Maybe I don't even know what I'm talking about, but I feel like I read something like that, and I don't know. For me, there wasn't enough in this thing that made that much of a difference, and honestly, most of the time when I'm kickstarting stuff, besides the fact that I want it, I'm actually trying to help somebody, because let's be honest, a lot of times it's not a great savings compared to what you could get something online. So the thrill of it is backing and the stretch goals and a little bit of the extra stuff, but it's certainly not always the cost of the game. So I'm rambling a little bit here, and this has got a lot to do. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you don't know, Myth is like a dungeon crawl, sort of like an open world dungeon crawl. This is more like a tower defense-ish kind of thing.
Yeah, this is definitely more like a tower defense, and I would say Myth is more like a RPG hybrid dungeon crawl, just because of... It's hard to explain. We have grand plans to do a super in-depth series in that game, and then actually try to record some sessions, because it's that big of a game. But we feel like that would need multiple parts, and we just don't have our ducks in a row and exactly how we want to tackle it. We have it in our head, but not ready to go yet.
If you really want to see it, leave a comment, and that'll light a fire under
if somebody leaves a comment, we'd be all over that. So anyways, we'll quit flapping. There's a lot to go over in this. There's a lot of content, so we will dive right into components in just a second. Okay, so we're back, and we're going to go over the components of Myth Dark Frontier. But real quick, forgot to mention during the intro that the game design is by Adam Sadler and Brady Sadler. So just wanted to throw that in there so we didn't forget to mention who did the game. So what we're going to do here real quick is we're going to, obviously it's a board, haha, because you guys can't see that. But there's a decent amount of components in this game. So we're going to go over the board real quick, and then we're going to remove the board, go over the components, and then some of that probably won't make sense until we get into setup, and then stuff will start to become more clear, and then obviously in gameplay it'll be even more clear after that. But hopefully by gameplay you've heard us talk about these different things enough that you'll have a good idea of what's going on before you actually play or watch us play. So anyways, go for it, Jeb.
Alright, the first thing we should probably talk about is Farron Rock, which is the city that you're protecting in the game.
Alright.
And it's in the very center of the board.
And there it is. You got a nice 3D model of Farron Rock. And as we mentioned, it is like this is kind of like a tower defense, so they're trying to attack the city. And what's really cool about this is, if you can't tell on camera, this thing is actually 10 pieces. And so as the city starts to get destroyed, you actually take pieces off. And I'm not going to go through all of it because it's a little bit of a bear to get together sometimes. Only because there's an actual order, and I don't have the order memorized. But the rule book has, which pieces should go first to help it, go together a little bit. Now,
I believe there's 10 pieces plus the base piece.
Well, right, that's what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point, though.
Because each piece represents the health.
And since you can't really put figures there, the tile for Farron Rock actually sits off to the side so that you can you can place figures there when they actually get into Farron Rock.
Yep. All right, and then around Farron Rock, there's different locations. And they're represented by, what are those, hexagons, right?
Yep.
I guess if you just pick one of them out, say this one, the name of it is in the bottom. So this is the village. There's also dungeon, outland, lair, sanctuary, ruins. And they show up multiple times because here's this, I guess, village here. There's a village up there.
Village here.
Multiple spots.
Multiple locations.
Right here on each of the tiles is a space for objective tokens, which we'll get into later. And then in the bottom right of each of them, there's a number of flames, and those are used when determining
number of players.
Yeah, so like if you only have a 2-player game, you're not going to, in setup you'll see it, but you wouldn't use this one because it has 4 flames.
Right.
And then the top 3 and the bottom 3 have symbols on the right side, and those are associated with the die, the fate die, and those are used for spawning. So
right. So these are random spawn points based on whatever you get on a die roll.
Yeah. So I think that's everything for the board itself. On the left side, there's actually spaces for cards, and there's 3 different actions.
Yep. So you're going to be taking actions based on cards that get played, and so this is the morning action slot, this is the day action slot, and this is the night action slot, and this is where quest cards go, so you know what the current quest is.
Yep. And then at the bottom of the board, there is a fate dice pool and a Farron Rock resource reserves. The fate dice pool is where you keep all the fate dice, and then the Farron Rock resource reserves is where you keep all the resources that you collect during the game.
Right. So since this is a fully cooperative game, that's why you have pools of stuff, because anybody can pull from the pool on their turn. So you don't really, other than your personal deck of cards, you don't keep anything for yourself, so to speak.
And I believe that's everything for the board itself. So let's start going over the other components. Okay, so this is the rest of the components for Dark Frontier. We kind of have everything in one pile, if you want to call it that. And
we'll just go one at a time and let you know what the stuff is. So as you can see, it definitely has, a bunch of bits and pieces and parts and things that do stuff. So anyways, what we got first, Jeb?
Let's start with the enemy sheet.
Okay. So every game, you're going to pick an enemy. It has a corresponding sheet that goes with it. This one happens to be the or Canis sheet. And
on the back, I believe it has setup and some flavor text as well. So
you have that, and then
also how to set up. It has a diagram, so you can see how to set up the board in the beginning.
Okay, so and then up at the top gives you your different levels of this particular monster group. So starting on the
right side,
right to left. In this case, you have the grubbers, the muckers, and the Orcanis with the big captain guy. And then down here, we have the conquest track, and each this part's the same. It's got a yellow, a red, and a blue on each, but this represents corruption, this one represents devastation, this one represents despair, and again, we'll get more into that later, but that is a monster sheet.
And they are color coordinated, so you can see which effects correspond to which tracks.
Right.
Okay, next up is the objective summary and objective, I guess, map,
Yeah.
if you want to call it that.
So this is the objective map, and basically what happens at the beginning of the game is that you're going to put one objective card in each of those colors, and those are going to be your objective for the game. These are what the objective cards look like. So as you can see, you have all
a bunch
the colors.
Of orange, bunch of red, bunch of blue, and then the whites are the final objectives,
right.
which...
So you get a random one of these,
yep.
and then a random one of each color, and just a couple things to point out, like is the name of the card. They all have a different flavor text name. Down here is the good thing. This is the bad thing. This is what you have to do to attempt to get one of the objective tokens. One of the neat things, though, is if you remember from just a second ago when we were talking about the board, those objective tokens get put on certain spot based on what this objective says.
Right.
So this says Sanctuary. So if this is one of the objective in play, the Sanctuaries are going to get the yellow/orange objective token. Quick note about that is you can't have multiple objectives on the same type of location. So these will all be different in terms of what space they will be on the map.
And then I guess we should probably mention that there is text on each of these. So at some point the quest card is going to get discarded, and once that happens, there's this effect that will be put into play. So that's what's written on those squares. And then on the left side there's some summary about objectives, and then in the bottom left is a summary for the game round. So some more helpful information for you.
Yeah, they do a pretty good job of putting stuff all over the place so you kind of know what's going on. You don't have to refer to the rule book. You will the first game, but after that you can kind of refresh your memory by just looking at the board.
Okay, next up are quest cards, and those are the white cards that you see up there.
Okay. So also, if you remember on the board, there was a section where after the morning, day, and night, I mentioned that there's a quest section, and that's where one of these cards is going to go. Actually, the whole pile, because you can do multiple of them. But similar to the cards that we've looked at already, in a way, they have a what you up here is what you have to do.
The skill test.
The skill test, which I know we haven't gotten to yet, and then the good side if you pass it, and the bad side if you didn't. And this comes into play if a certain card triggers it. Yeah. So, and then that's bad too.
And at the very bottom of the card says where the objective is taking place. So that one says lair. Yeah, sorry.
Not the objective. So basically, what Jeb was saying about the location part at the bottom of the card, you have to be in one of those locations to try to do this quest.
Right. So they correspond to the spaces on the board. Next up, we already talked about the objective cards, so let's talk about the encounter cards.
Okay. During the game, you will have the option at some points to engage in an encounter, And the way the encounter works is wherever you are standing, you can choose to encounter. And then if I was standing in the sanctuary, then I would just draw the top card of the sanctuary, and I would flip it over. And again, we have a skill test, a success, and a failure, and then what happens when you succeed or you fail or whatever with the text down there. And there are encounters for the sanctuary, the ruin, the village, the dungeon, and Farronrock. And I believe, Jeb can correct me if I'm wrong, that with the Kickstarter there are encounters for the Outlands.
Outlands.
And the layers.
Yes. That's Kickstarter exclusive. The the core game only has these 5 decks.
Right. So that's why we only put those out. And honestly, it's plenty.
Yeah. All right, next up are the hero cards.
Okay, so each hero gets a set of their hero, picture of their hero, and then a set of 5 cards. And they're all the same. They just have different abilities on them. But for each character, you're going to get an encounter card. You're going to get a quest card. You're going to get a travel card. A fortify card, and a battle card. So again, everybody gets the same cards.
They have the same card names, but the effects will vary.
But all the effects are different, and how the stuff resolves is different also. So that was the Brigand. Let's just show you real quick. This is the soldier, and I am going to find the battle card on each of these and show you. So one key thing about these cards is the highlight, the dark highlighted into basically a brown cover. That's the mandatory action for the card. But you resolve the card from top to bottom. So as you can see, the soldier has this goes off first, and
it's
the
a
Brigand
green die would cause that to go off, and the Brigand is an orange
and he has
die.
all this stuff to go off, then battle, and then something else. And then also notice that on the soldier, he has a bunch of stuff that doesn't even have a symbol, so he can just choose to do them if he wants to, or whatever the card says. But my point that I wanted to show you is that even though they have the same name, all the characters operate a little bit differently.
And then on the character card, they have the number of dice you roll for your skill tests given on it. And then at the bottom right, there is how much health your character has. And if you flip the card over, it actually has some setup that you do before you start the game that's specific to your character, and then any special rules that are involved.
Right. So, recap, health, and Jeb probably doesn't, he's going to say flag, book, snake, and bird.
I'll go specific enough to say dove.
Which is, I believe, what is it? Tactics? Is that right? And then, like knowledge, I think, and then cunning, and something else. But those are the skills that you have in this game.
I'll do a pop-up because there's no way I remember that.
Yeah, because Jeb never remembers that stuff. But anyways, that's they're all color-coded, so... And I think he did mention, too, that the number inside those skills is what you'll get to roll for D10, and that's what's in the little white box. It's D10.
Let's go over the enemy action cards, since those are the last type of cards that we have left to talk about.
Okay, so the enemy also has a handful of cards.
So heroes had 5 action cards, and guess what? The enemy has 5 action cards
also. These will, at the beginning of each round, he's going to randomly put 3 of these into the morning, day, and night piles, and then at some point in the round, those will each go off. Notice that he has there's 3 of them that match the tracks over here. So he's trying to get bad things to happen to you based on these different colors. So when these pop up, they'll do bad things. And then these are special ones. This one, March, makes the...
I think that's for minions, and then the
Right.
scheme kind of is for captains.
Right.
Something to that extent.
It's sort of like that.
But the key thing is, at the bottom of those cards, it says the name of the monster type.
Right.
So since we have the orcs, I call it Orcanus. It might be, you might pronounce it something else, but I say Orcanus. So it actually says Orcanus on the bottom, which corresponds to the Orcanus enemy sheet.
Right.
So in the Kickstarter, there actually were multiple enemy sheets that came with multiple action cards.
Right. So you know which set to put in, basically.
Right. Okay. Next up are the hero miniatures.
Yeah, so you got a bunch of hero miniatures here. Myth actually has really cool. They're very detailed and very nice sculpts on their minis. So let's see.
I think a couple of those are Kickstarter exclusive.
Yeah, a couple of them are. I think like is it the Tinkerer here?
Yeah, the Tinkerer,
Tinkerer
is the Archer.
and is
Actually,
the Archer
I think-
exclusive?
Yep.
Oh, this is the Tinkerer. This is the... We're babbling. Doesn't really matter. Anyways, here's the Soldier, and the Brigand's a little bent over, but those are his figures. So you have nice figures to play with, and nice figures if you're a painter to paint. They're nice and detailed, and they're really cool looking.
And then next to those are the enemy tokens.
Okay, again, if you do have the Game of Myth, you can use your actual figures, but so that size is a minion, this size is a captain, and this size is a boss. And
One boss, 4 captains, and a bunch of minions.
right, and the opposite side is the delayed feature, which is a mechanic in the game. I don't think the captain can be delayed, and
Nope.
I don't think the big guy can be delayed. Look at that.
Yep.
So they were smart enough to make it double-sided. Well, not double-sided, but no delayed on one side.
Right.
Everything's double-sided.
Okay. Then we've got the objective tokens.
Right? These are what Jeb was talking about, go on the map based on whatever cards that we go here. There's little hexes that they fit right in, and you just put them based on their color in the appropriate slot on the game board.
And you'll see that in setup when we do that.
And the number of tokens that are out there are based on the number of players.
Yep.
Okay.
So next up are the conquest markers, and there's only 3 of them because...
There's only 3 spots on the conquest track. So they all start right here, and they will move around based on events in the game. I like the fact that they made them nice and dark.
Yeah.
They stick out. They don't blend in. They're very easy to see. But these tracks, if you're having trouble seeing it, there's little squares. So they just move along like this. And then there are special marks with skulls in them that trigger these events. And then at the very end, when you get to the axe, then from that point on, it'll start triggering the really bad event every time this thing would be supposed to be moved and doesn't.
Okay, next up are the health counters.
Pretty self-explanatory. You got drops of blood here, and you have ones and 3s. I'm not even going to try to show them to you because they're tiny, but they're supposed to plop right on your card. That's why they're tiny. And actually they work. They work pretty good. It's just the fact is that they are little.
Okay, then there are the resources, which are not really tokens. They're actually
You have these
like
plastic gems. This was an upgrade again on the Kickstarter. Have no idea if these will be included in retail or not. I don't think they were supposed to be. That doesn't mean they won't be.
Yeah.
But so let's see. This is hope. This is supply, and this is influence. Right?
You got all those right without looking.
I did.
I was reading them off the board because I don't know.
Because I am that good and Jeb is not.
I just know colors.
Yeah, it's blue, red, and orange.
All right. Next up.
He was actually complaining that they didn't use all primary colors too. Why couldn't they just use the primary colors?
All right.
And they slipped an orange in on him.
and I still call it yellow.
It is kind of yellowish orange, but I think it's more orange than yellow.
The gym is orange, but they're whatever.
But the card's both.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's move on.
Anyways, alright.
We have dice. There are two kinds of dice. There's the D10s and then the fate dice.
You ready for it, people?
No.
Yes.
No, not right now.
Oh, fine.
No, I mean, I do.
Oh, you know it's gonna happen. Probably wait for, we got a special prize for you guys in the gameplay. Talking about Jeb. Anyways, these are D10.
Yep.
Little foreshadowing there. And these are the fate die. So the fate die have different symbols on them, different colors. So they're pretty easy to distinguish. The bad one is that's called the darkness signal symbol. All right, and if you remember from just a second ago when we were looking at the heroes, you'll notice that some of the cards have pictures of those die. So real quick, basically what happens if that symbol is sitting in the dice pool, you can take that die, use the action on your card, re-roll the die, put it back. So the symbols are constantly changing. So you may or may not have a die in the dice pool that matches on your card. So who knows if you'll actually be able to do your special ability.
Yep. Next up are the structure tokens. There's only 6 of them because that's how many there's supposed to be. It's a finite number of structures.
Yeah, it's a finite number of structures, and when you see what these do and when you relate it to the size of the board, that's probably a pretty good number, having 6.
Yeah.
After, you know, Jeb and I have both played now. Again, finite, when you don't have it, when these are on the board, that's it. You can't do that. You actually do that with the fortify action.
Yes. And then the last pile of tokens we have are a bunch of random tokens that are associated with the different heroes. So what you're going to do is when you start the game, you're going to pick your hero, and then on the back of their card it tells you what tokens you need. So you can just kind of sift through and get whatever you...
And just since I play the archer all the time, and I actually play the archer in Myth, I know exactly what this token is. This is called Fool's Errand. So on the back of... is it called the Archer in this game, Jeb?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah, it is. It's called the Archer in that character. It says right on the back of the card, take Fool's Errand and take 3 arrows. So if I was setting up the Archer, that's what I would take. Jeb lost my arrow.
I hope not.
Yeah,
there were only 3 of them.
I know.
Is it under one?
Yeah, it's right here. Yeah. So I just happen to know, because that's the character that I play, that's what the back of the card would say, and I would take those, and I get to start the game with them.
And there's actually some tokens that we don't really know how they're used yet.
We haven't stumbled across them yet, so...
Yeah, they're... What are they? Burnt villages or destroyed
villages? Looks like...
it's on the back of it.
Looks like a destroyed village.
Yeah, so...
For those, and then... This is actually one of the raged symbols. Oh, that's the soldier token. So that's that's for him. I don't know why we separated those. So anyways, you get the gist. If it's not a normal token, then that means somewhere in the game somebody has a special ability, or the game has a special ability that uses the token. So I think that's about it. I know you're probably going, boy, a lot of that didn't make any sense. But as I said, this is just strictly supposed to be components. We tried to touch on some of the stuff that you're going to hear again, just so that your brain will go, oh yeah, I remember them saying that. And then as we go through setup, we're going to say it again. We'll probably try to give you a little more depth on it, and then we'll give you the full depth when we try to tackle gameplay before we actually show you a game of Dark Frontier. Alright, so we're back. We're going to go through step-by-step setup now. We'll try to elaborate on anything that we think we should elaborate on a little bit more. Obviously some of the stuff is set up, but we're still going to start from the very beginning, and stuff that's already out there we'll point and let you know what we did if necessary.
And also in the rule book, they have a diagram of kind of like a whole play area. So
Yep.
if you have any questions, you can also look at that.
Right. So we tried to squish as much in here, so hopefully you can see the main parts. We'll try to be very clear
Yep.
when we're talking about things, especially set up stuff that has to do with like reading the back of the card, so that you can get an idea of exactly what, when you open the box, you'll be dealing with.
Yep. All right, so let's begin the setup. The first thing is to set up the game board. So you place the game board.
There it is.
And then you're going to put the objective board and the Fair Rock tile nearby.
Alright, so objective board over there by Jeb.
Right here. And then we have the Fair Rock tile up here. You can put it anywhere you want, but I think for you guys to be able to see it, it's going to be up here. So just keep that in mind.
And again, if you forgot what that represents, that tile is that city.
And that means that this is adjacent to Fair Rock. So
which is that tile.
Yep. All right, next up are choosing your heroes. So when you choose your hero, you're going to take its hero card, its hero action cards, and follow the back of the hero card for setup, and place the miniature on the Fair Rock tile. So Mickey, who are you choosing?
Okay, Jeb, I am going to try something different and not be an archer.
That's because the archer isn't in the core set.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up in there. But, anyways, I'm going to try the Apprentice. For one thing, it's magic, which is always cool. And for another thing, she gets a side deck of spells, which it could be very interesting. So, like we showed you just a minute ago, here's her 5 basics. And like I said, she has a spell deck, because she's a mage.
And the back of the spells are actually a different color, so
right,
you won't get them mixed in with your...
So very nice. Nicely done. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just do my whole thing, alright?
Yeah, look on the back of her card and read off what you have to do.
That's my, that's who I chose. And during setup, shuffle all my spell cards and place them face down in my area. So they're separate spell cards. Shuffle them up. Put them face down. And then, my special rules. When an action directs me to draw a spell card, choose any spell from the deck in your play area and place it into your hand. Each spell card specifies the timing it can be played and its effect. After playing a spell card, place it face up in your play area next to your spell card deck to form a discard pile. Play spell cards may only be placed back into your spell deck from the discard by using a fate die result on a specific action. So what that means is, as I use my spells and they get discarded, one of these cards in here, I don't know which one it is, lets me reshuffle everything. This looks like one of them. On my encounter, it says I can turn one fate die to darkness, which is bad, but then I can return 2 spell cards in my discard pile back to the spell deck. So, that's an example of how I would be able to return stuff. That's the end of my special things. This is actually your hand of cards, so you don't need to shuffle that. And I find my figure. There she is. Cool figure. And that goes on Fair Rock.
And then, really quick, mine is the Acolyte. So I have the Acolyte cards. On the back of the Acolyte it says, gather all the prayer tokens into a pile in your play area. So I would go find those. This is your supply. Place the prayers reference card next to this card, which this is the prayers reference card. So all of this is just going to be in my area. And then Mickey, can you hand me the Acolyte? And then I placed my my mini on Fair Rock, and that's it for the hero setup. So next up is choose an enemy army, and we are choosing Orcanis, which are the orcs, and I believe that's the only one in the retail box, but we have no idea. So what you're going to do is you grab the enemy sheet and place it next to the board. Then you get the enemy action cards, which we've already grabbed. It says Orcanis on the bottom.
Right on the bottom, all of these say Orcanis.
There should be 5 of them.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And then grab all the enemy tokens.
We've already put those up here.
Next, you're going to follow the setup on the back of the enemy sheet. So you just flip over the enemy sheet and
we will go from there. So again, we got the tokens, we have their deck. Now we are going to flip this over to see how to prepare these monsters. Muckers, 1 per player. Grubbers, which are the minions, there's a total of 6. And the big boss guy, which there's only 1 token, so that's all you can have. So, the Apprentice, Master of Masters setup. Place the Apprentice token near the enemy sheet. Shuffle the enemy action cards and place them face down near this board. Did I shuffle those already? I don't remember if I did. Okay. And then it has a picture of what happens when a siege goes off. And the first time a conquest marker moves into a siege location, do not activate that siege ability. Place Apprentice on the board, which is the boss, based on the following rule. When the siege begins, roll 1 non-darkness fate die in the fate die pool to determine his starting position. So basically he's going to start on one of those ones we showed you during the setup that have a different color. Anyhow, that's way into the game. Alright, each player places 1 mucker in a different outland location. Place 1 grubber in each area adjacent to Farron Rock. So, as you can see, it actually shows you exactly where to put the captains and the minions. Right? Also notice that that's if there's 4 players, and that's if there's 3 players. So it's just going to be Jeb and I playing, so we will put
2 captains and 6 grubbers.
a captain in that outland, captain in the other outland, and then grubbers go all the way around, Jeb.
And they go up on their face-up side, not the delayed side.
Yeah, that would be nice if they started on the delayed side. So, notice they're nice and close to Farron Rock already. That is all is set up. The rest of this down the card is flavor text. I'm not going to... It's not boring, but I'm not going to read that all to you guys. Actually, the story stuff in this is really kind of cool. So, if you want to read that, you can.
Alright, so next up you just put that back, and then you're going to place the 3 conquest markers on the top left of each of the tracks, and you can, I don't know if you can see it that well, but it's literally an empty circle up here, right. So you know that's where it starts.
And when I was talking about that siege section on the back of the card, that is that symbol on each of those.
Yes.
Okay. So
and that's the end of the track.
Right, and notice that it didn't say a specific one, so if you look, I don't know how well you could see it, but on the back of that card it was an orange axe. Right. That means the color meant nothing, it's just so that it sticks out. If it hit this one first, he would still come in, okay?
Alright, so next up are the objective decks, and Mickey, if you can grab them.
Right.
What you're going to do is divide them into the 3, or I guess 4 different piles.
Yep. So again, when we went over components, we talked to you about this a little bit, but and we already have them separated. So here's the orange ones. I'll use Jeb terminology, and red ones, and blue ones, and then the white ones are the final objective. So what we do is I'll just start, since it's the top of the track over there. We will shuffle, 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 shuffle. I will go like that. Jeb will pull one out.
Alright. And I will place it over here to cover up the text that's on the card. Okay. And, well, I guess what we're supposed to do...
Don't you want to get them all out first?
We can. It honestly doesn't matter because you're going to get it.
I have stuff on the board. That's why I said that. Whatever. Did we get the same one?
Nope.
Alright. And so the last, well, second to last, kind of. Jeb will get that.
That is the same.
Okay, wait. Alright, so Jeb just pulled this card.
So I looked at the location on the bottom. It says village.
Right. But
over here we have a ruins and a village.
Okay.
And
you cannot have a objective card with the same location. So we'll discard that and let him pick a different one. Good now?
Nope.
That's alright. We're going to get there.
Alright, dungeon.
There. So now we have every single one of those takes place in a different section.
And all of those extra ones go back to
into
the
the
box.
box, and then he'll pick a final.
Not yet.
Not yet. He doesn't want to do that yet.
No, because this is actually a separate section.
Okay.
So, what you're going to do for each of the objectives, you look at the location on the bottom of it, and then you grab a number of objective tokens equal to the number of players and place them in the objective token areas.
Okay.
So, to make sense, the orange one is in the ruins. So it's a 2-player game.
Right, so here are the ruins. There's 4 ruins. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 of everything, basically. What we do is we look for the ruins that have 2. There's a 2. And we place one there, and Jeb can get the other one. Oh, duh. I didn't even see that.
Alright, so you just place them in that little space on the left-hand side of them.
Right. Now, obviously, if we were playing with 3 people, the 2s would still have objective tokens in it, and then you'd fill in the 3, and then so on. If you had 4 players, they would all be filled.
Yep. For the red, it's in the village.
Right, here's one for you, and I have a 2 spot here. 2 flames.
4,
so
3.
This gets that. And Jeb's struggling.
3, 4, 2. And then the blue is in the dungeon. Ah, I got that one.
But it didn't take me as long to find mine as it did
Shut
Jeb. Alright, so that's how you place the objectives, and again, scale's real nice if you have extra players, because you can just look and it tells you exactly which spot to put them on.
Alright, so that's everything for the objectives. So now let's do the final objective. And to do this, you're going to shuffle all the final objectives, and then take one of them and place it face down near the objectives. So don't look at this. There's actually a spot on the side of
We're
this
just
board.
going to put it on top, though, or bottom, or
Put it on the
wherever.
bottom. So you just leave that off to the side, and that comes out at a certain time. We'll talk about that later. So next up is prepare the cards and all the tokens. So what you're going to do is divide and shuffle all the encounter cards. So when we were showing you components, there's the different encounter cards.
We are just...
So you pretty much shuffle them and put them off to the side.
So Jeb has got a pile of dungeon cards, a pile of village cards, a pile of sanctuary cards, and a Farron Rock pile, and a ruins pile.
Yep.
Okay, so remember there's a couple spaces on the board. There's 2 spaces on the board, the layers and the outlands, that do not have encounter cards for their spots.
Yep. And also, since we're kind of a little tight on space, you might want to leave some room for a discard.
Right.
Doesn't matter. We can figure that out.
Honestly, when we were playing, we just put the we weren't able to keep the card, we just put it face up underneath the pile, figuring we weren't going to get through them all.
And if we ever had to shuffle, we'd know the
right,
difference.
and if we ever had to shuffle, we'd know where it was. Because I don't remember seeing in the rules if those are supposed to be finite or not. Because you do get to keep some of them, so maybe when, maybe you've exhausted the land when you go through them all. I don't know if you'd be able to get through them all anyways.
Yeah, it didn't look like it when we played.
Yeah, exactly.
Alright, so next up we're going to shuffle the quest deck. So Mickey has that over there.
Right, quest deck are the white backs. Kind of look like that all in the front. I'll shuffle these up.
And once you shuffle them, you're going to put them on the quest card area on the board.
Hopefully you guys can see that.
And then you take the top quest card, flip it over, and put it on top of the deck. And that is the active quest right now.
This is the active quest. And if you remember how we talked about the quest, you have to quest in the area that this card says to be in to be able to perform that action, which in this case is the village. So if I'm in a village spot, doesn't matter if a objective token is in it or not, I can still perform the quest action and try to complete this card. And I'm going to go ahead and read this to you guys so you can get an idea of what some of these things are like. So this one would test the red skill, which is like an intelligence check or whatever. I forget what it's called in this game. we should probably use the proper terminology, much to Jeb's dismay. This is called the Poisoned Well. Many of the villagers have sickened, but the healers see no sign of a natural plague. Could the reason be more sinister? So, if I were to succeed at this, I would gain 1 hope and gain 1 asset of my choice from the village encounter deck. And if I failed it, the hero performing this quest suffers 1 damage. You don't have a whole lot of hit points in this game, so taking damage is not good. Not that it's good in any game, but it's, and I wouldn't say it's extremely easy to heal either.
Right.
So anyways, and then sometimes other cards...
It's called the scheme effect.
Right, which is in the monster deck.
It'll say to resolve the scheme effect, and when it does that, you look at the quest card,
right,
the area.
Black area.
Yep, and then you just follow what it says.
And in this case, it says raise despair by 1 for each captain in a village. So you'd look at all the villages. If there was any of these tokens, then you would raise the despair, which is the blue. Okay?
And then at the bottom of the quest card is actually the location where you can perform the quest action to do that. So just keep that in mind. And for Mickey's sake, the blue one is the tactics, the red one is intellect.
I got it right.
Green,
I got 2 of them right.
Green is cunning.
I got 3 of them right.
And orange is spirit.
I got that one wrong.
You called that a bird.
Influence. I think I guessed influence, and then I said Jeb would call it a bird.
Yeah.
Which was actually wrong. Jeb said it was a dove.
Yeah. Alright, so after you do that, you're going to gather up all of the resource gems and just place them next to the board. I'm going to put it down here at the bottom, so you're not going to be able to see it, but it's kind of close to where it says Farronrock Resource Reserves, and that way, just whenever we gather them, we're going to put them on here to show...
Once they're on the board, they're ours.
Right. And then you can just slide them off when you spend them or lose them or whatever.
So it doesn't really matter if you can see them because they're useless when they're not in that spot.
Then you're going to put the structures, the 6 structures, next to the board. In the book it just has them like right here off the board, so that's where I'm going to leave them. There's 6 of them, so just keep that in mind. You'll see them when we put them on the board. And then you're going to put the damage tokens near the board in reach of everyone, which...
I have them on my side over here. Again, they're the little red blood drops. They're off to the side.
No need to
see those sitting there and doing nothing for you.
Okay, after that you're going to prepare the dice. So first you're going to take the 5 fate dice and you're going to roll them.
Right?
And the key here is to place them, the way you roll them, you're placing them into that pool. So.
And that's what we have to start. So Jeb let Mickey roll, which was good because Jeb would have rolled all darkness, which are bad.
Yes.
Just as a quick aside, a lot of games like this, well, not everybody has this mechanics, but a lot of times they'll be like in a dice game, if you get so many of this, re-roll the bad stuff. We did not see anything in the rule book. So if you were unfortunate enough to roll all 6 darkness, evidently you're starting the game really bad.
Or just make a secret pact with all the players and say that you're never going to discuss this again and re-roll.
Yeah, house roll.
Yeah.
But anyways, just in case you've played this type of game, we didn't see anything that says there was a mulligan type of thing for the fate die.
Right, and then after you do that, the D10s you're just going to put off to the side, and the players can grab them whenever they have to roll them. And then the final thing, which we've actually already done, is to set the stability of Farronrock, and that means to put the Farronrock miniature together.
Right, which what Jeb just said was to build this.
Right.
And as he said when we showed you components, this is made up of 10 pieces plus the base. So as you go along, if you take the final piece off the base, Farronrock's dead.
Yes, to be clear, the stability of Farronrock is 10. So once you take the 10 pieces off, then you lose.
Right.
So, and that's everything for setup. So I guess we can start talking about how to play the game, right?
Right.